have to have someone in charge who's fully capable of giving their very best, because that's what this group deserves and demands. And we have that man here in San Antonio.
Gregg Popovich is no longer coaching the Spurs, so they have picked someone else to take his place. It's not a well-known, familiar name that just became available, as many people thought it would be. The keys are now fully in the hands of Mitch Johnson, an assistant coach who took over after Popovich had a stroke in November 2024. And this is why it surprised most people, except those who were paying close attention to San Antonio. The Spurs had a lot of skilled candidates who were close to Popovich and the team. Mike Budenholzer was one of the people who was recently fired. He worked for Pop for almost 20 years, from 1996 to 2013. The other was Taylor Jenkins, who started out in their system as a teacher for the G League team. From 2008 to 2013, he worked for the Austin Toros as an assistant coach and then as head coach. Oh, I see. I know they were both fired from their teams by the end of the season, and there was a good reason for it. But if you look at what each coach has done in the past, you know that you will be getting proven experience. Jenkins had worked with a young star named Jamaran for 6 years and had been to the playoffs 3 times in that time. At the same time, Budenholzer had won Coach of the Year awards with both the Hawks and the Bucks, who brought the 2021 NBA title back to Milwaukee. The Spurs chose Mitch Johnson over those and other big names, though, and to be honest, it makes a lot of sense because it's like how they've always done things. There's more to Mitch Johnson than just being a lucky young helper. His dad was an NBA player named John Johnson, who scored over 10,000 points and was a recognized veteran. However, Mitch has been working for the Spurs organization since 2016, when he became an assistant coach for the Austin Spurs. First, he helped the team win a G League title in 2018. The next year, he was moved to full-time assistant coach on the Spurs NBA bench, taking over for Tim Duncan. In other words, Johnson has been with the Spurs for 9 years. That's the most recent job that gives you more knowledge with Spurs culture than most of the other candidates. He is young and hasn't been a head teacher for very long, but even that comes with a catch. After Popovich's health scare, he pretty much led the whole 2024-25 NBA season. He had worked directly for Popovich for years before that. That's a good start for a first-time head coach. There are also some numbers we can look at, even though the sample size is small. The Spurs scored about 104 points per game in their first 5 games under Popovich. That went up to about 114 points per game under Mitch Johnson. It's more important that the team's total record went from 22-60 in 2023-24 to 34-48 this past year. A 12-win gain is pretty big, but WBY and his teammates naturally got better as the season went on, and the additions of Fox and CP3 brought Spurs close to the play-in level. It's possible that they would have made the playoffs if they hadn't been hurt. Besides his stats, Johnson has been praised for how cool and collected he is. He gives his players freedom and trust while keeping Spurs' identity by putting structure, defensive discipline, and ball movement at the top of the list. He's not stuck in the past, though. His ability to combine old-fashioned sports rules with new methods makes him a great link between different times. The connection between NBA players and coaches is more important than ever these days. People in this league run it. Many times, coaches are hired or fired based on how well they get along with the players, especially the star players who play for the team. That's yet another good reason to support Mitch Johnson. He seems to have good ties with everyone on the team, but most importantly, he has a real connection with Victor Wanyama, who is the Spurs' most important player for the future. You can see that Mitch Johnson isn't just another employee boost. He is already someone Wanyama trusts. First as Webb's shot coach, whose work can be seen in the results, and now as someone who is improving the offense as a whole. As you can see, Wembanyama's change this season happened at the same time that Johnson's power grew. Wanyama only attempted an average of 5.5 three-pointers per game during the 2023-24 season when Popovich was in charge. This number went up a little to 6.88 in the first few games of the 2024-25 season when Pop was still the coach. If Johnson had not been there, WBY would have missed 9 out of every 10 shots. I'm pretty sure that's not a mistake. It's clear that Johnson told Wanyama he could improve his skills, use his flexibility, and play more like a wing who protects the basket. The Spurs should make this coaching change because they believe and see the big picture. Wemby even said that he believes Mitch Johnson will grow into this job, which shows that he has a lot of faith in his ability to lead. He also said nice things about Johnson for not being afraid to tell him off.
I thought he had some very poor moments in the first 3 quarters in terms of fundamentals and solid basketball.
That might not be true, but it could be because Johnson has played abroad for a short time, something that likely helps him understand WMBB's past and way of thinking. Johnson has also done a great job growing other young players, especially rookie Svan Castle, and it paid off. From the beginning, he gave Castle a lot of freedom for a first-year player. This season, even though he was picked 4th, he was named the Rookie of the Year. Castle still doesn't have a good outside shot and isn't a big threat from 3, but Johnson didn't try to push him into a role he wasn't ready for. He instead played to Castle's skills, using all of his speed, strength, defensive talent, and sense of the game to the fullest. Johnson knows how to get the most out of young players without making them doubt themselves or stop being creative by giving them individualized advice like that. As Castle shows signs of long-term growth, Johnson continues to earn trust as a coach who is good at developing players. There were also recent words from Chris Paul that showed how much Mitch Johnson has been missed in the Spurs locker room. Paul stressed that Johnson's installation as head coach went smoothly, in large part because he already had the players' trust. They had been working out with him, doing drills with him, and listening to him coach during games for years, so the link was really strong. Paul also said that Johnson is a passionate coach, the kind you can only get from someone who really gets the game and can relate to the players. It makes sense. Mitch played point guard at Stanford, and you can still tell in the way he talks to people, gets them excited, and runs the game. Everyone trusts, talks to, and respects each other, which is exactly what you want in a young coach heading a group that is still growing. And the NBA as a whole has been hiring young trainers with little experience. These days, teams not only trust their assistant teachers, but they also get great results. Look at the NBA's top 2 teams right now. The Celtics, who came in second, in the East, did the same thing. After a short time as an assistant coach, Joe Mazzulla became head coach and led Boston to a title in just his 2nd season. In the West, Oklahoma City hired Mark Dagnall as head coach in 2020, even though he had never been a head coach in the NBA before. Dagnall has been with OKC for years, working with them in both the G League and the NBA. He has now led them to 2 straight Western Conference titles. This is yet another example of how internal consistency can really work. The Spurs don't really have anything to lose at this point. To be honest, hiring a famous teacher would have cost them a lot more. They decided to trust the process instead and gave Mitch Johnson the keys. It's easy to see why they think this will work for them when you look around the league and see that some of the best teams are following this trend. Things won't have to go exactly as planned, which I don't think will happen, but the Spurs will still have good choices. They have a huge edge now that Gregg Popovich is in charge of basketball operations. Many coaches in the league look up to him as an example, even if they haven't worked directly with him. If anyone knows how to get a good coach when they need one, it's Pop. Also, don't forget that most people want to be WBY coaches. Besides that, the team has a senior like Chris Paul, who is one of the smartest players the game has ever seen. If Johnson's time as head coach goes badly, you have a backup plan that sounds like a high IQ guard like Jason Kidd or JJ Redick who wants to lead and be responsible. For the worst case, Mitch Johnson might just be warming up for CP3. That may sound cruel. And finally, they might be able to get Giannis this offseason. The Greek Freak is most likely to sign with either the Houston Rockets or the San Antonio Spurs, according to people close to Windhorse. As I've already said, Houston is the more likely choice, but that option is still there. And if it goes through, Mitch Johnson's seat would be under fire right away to take it. Now, I personally think it would be best to keep rebuilding and improving Wanyama, but it also seems silly to skip out on Primes. I want to know what you guys think about it anyway. Would you like to see Miss Johnson go from being an assistant coach to a head coach? Also, would you want the Spurs to give up a lot of valuable players for Giannis? Tell me what you think in the space below. Make sure you like this movie and follow my channel too.